And I think the more one begins to love self, the more one then begins to love others, the more one finds value in just life in general, the more one then again still begins to love the life of others. And I would say all of those things helps keep that ego in check, because that ego is a thing that likes to make a person feels more than.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Let's Rock podcast. I am your host, Philasophikal.
And I'm your co-host, Jay Ecko. What's good? How you feeling?
Welcome, everybody. As you can see, man, we got a great guest, illustrious guest, man. Really excited to have him on, man. Mr. Shift Your Perspective, perspective specialist, motivational speaker, certified master life coach, and also certified speaker, husband and father, and one of the my favorite phrases to hear, man, helping you develop more productive and powerful perspective of life. How's it going, man?
Oh man, everything good. I can't complain, and won't complain. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep. Really appreciate you coming on, taking the time with us. I know it was a little bit tough, but man, glad we made this through. Glad we made it happen.
Indeed.
So make sure you guys follow him on all platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and also Spotify at MrShiftYoPerspective, man. Really great content, really great guy, man. So we're gonna go right into it, man. You know, what we've been talking about lately is ego, right? So I want to kind of speak on some ways to let your ego go, especially this type of thing being within men. So let's kind of talk about that. You know, what are some ways kind of within men and us as men that we can let our ego go?
Well, I want to first say that the ego itself is just a part of our makeup. It's a part of how the creator created us. It plays a useful role, right? It compels us to do and be more. So it's not a bad thing in itself. However, and one of the ways to calm it down, I would say, one way to calm that ego down and keep it where it needs to be in check, one of the ways for myself is always contributing the great things that happen in my life, you know, whatever it is that I love, you know, whether it be self, whether it be anything, right? People applaud me, people, hey man, you done this. All of that goes to the Most High, you know, and which is, I would say, all praise is due to the Most High. And so for myself, that's one of the ways to definitely always keep myself calm, and me being aware of language. I would say be aware of language. Understand that who you are is who God made you to be in essence, but all of the bad things or the negative things has everything to do with just you, your soul, your journey. You know what I'm saying? So that one, again, contributing all great things to the Most High, having a stronger relationship with the Most High, getting a better understanding of the Most High and how the Most High works in our lives. Also with that, getting a better understanding of the enemy of you, the enemy of man, which we call Satan. Getting a real good understanding of these two, as well as then who you are in essence, your highs, your lows, you know, your ability to grow. Those things, from those things I've learned helps keep the ego in check. And I think the more one begins to love self, the more one then begins to love others, the more one finds value in just life in general, the more one then again still begins to love the life of others. And I would say all of those things helps keep that ego in check, because that ego is a thing that likes to make a person feels more than, better than, as if I can do some things that no one else can do. And true enough, I may have proven to be better in some areas. However, it don't mean that no one else can reach that that level, and it doesn't mean that I will always be on this level. You know what I'm saying? So I think just being able to really understand those different things would definitely help keep just that ego in check. And to get to those things, it just takes a lot of study. I think studying not just to know, but really studying to understand. I think just that by itself can truly help a person become more humble in the way that they move through life. And gratitude being big, man. Gratitude, I say gratitude and love are the two most powerful creative forces in our known universe. And to me, they are equal. And so when we also learn how to live in gratitude, being grateful for just the smallest of things, being grateful for the challenges in life, being grateful even for the discomforts that we have to experience, being grateful for being able to move beyond it. You know what I'm saying? But that relationship with the Most High puts a person in a position to be grateful. And then that coincides with being able to say, all praise due to the Most High. Because if you don't really have that relationship, and then you don't really live in gratitude, an individual don't even understand that concept. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I would say, man, that gratitude, that relationship with the Most High, and understanding, really striving to understand deeply all things that you study, all things that you go into, will help get us into a position of being able to keep that ego in check.
So you spoke on a lot of good things there, right? I want to speak on gratitude, right, and speak on having that relationship with God and the Most High, right? So let's speak on it from someone that maybe not knowing how to receive that gratitude, maybe not understanding how important it is to have a relationship with God, right? I think a lot of times what happens is that two things I got out of what you just said was that it's very important through what you say, through the power of the tongue, right? And secondly is being out of your own lack of understanding, right? Like sometimes we try to go into a direction and not have clear understanding of where we're going, how we're getting there, right? Because we don't have the tools, right? And I think a lot of times the studying portion of it, right? It comes down to being able to understand, what are we studying? Are we studying the right things? Are these conducive to our mindset? Are these conducive to our everyday living? And is this conducive positively to where we're trying to get to or where we're going? Right. So I guess it goes to also a certain end game. So kind of, can you, and I know gratitude is kind of a new word we haven't really touched on this podcast. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, how can someone understand but also acknowledge the receiving of gratitude?
That's a good question. How can someone begin to even understand gratitude?
Yeah.
I would first, if a person told me, like, I don't know what being grateful is, how do I know when I'm being grateful?
Yeah.
I would then try to find things in that person's personal experience and ask them how they feel about it. Like if they was hot outside and sit and be able to come in the house and sit in the AC. How did you feel after being out in the sun and you were able to come get in the AC? Or when you was working all day and you finally was able to get off and come relax, how did you feel? You know what I'm saying? And I would try to connect that feeling to that is how gratitude looks. However, that's a stage of it, you know. Okay. But I believe that once a person can at least start and identify there, then they're in a position to mature into a deeper level of just being able to sit in the present moment and be thankful of what they presently have when you understand you didn't have it yesterday, you know, or you understand some people don't have it. And so I even me saying thankful, I would then try to tie things into that, because I would really like to believe that everybody that said thank you, you know, and at some point in their life, you know. And so I would really try to get that person to grab that experience. And then I would try to get that person to remember how they felt when they said thank you. Why did you say thank you? What about that made you say thank you? Okay. And then get them to understand, basically, it's the value that something brings in your life. It's the value that you see that makes you so grateful, or that makes you thankful. And I always just try to build a person from that position.
Okay. Did you have something? Go ahead, Jay.
I like that you. I like that you spoke on the attitude of, well, not to, again, words and phrases, the attitude of gratitude and everything like that, because we've been talking about ego recently, but we've also sort of been touching on the attitude of abundance versus the attitude of scarcity, you know. And what's it called? I think the attitude of, you know, part of what we've been trying to push out is that, you know, the attitude of abundance is part of what allows you to keep striving for more, because it's like, all right, you're not trying to hold on to what you have, because you recognize that there's always more out there for you. There's more blessings out there for you. There's more resources out there for you. There's more, but just because it's out there for you doesn't mean it's guaranteed to you, right? You have to work for it, and you have to work with other people to get it. And sometimes it only comes to you through other people. And, you know, based on like what you're saying, it also, like, it comes to you from your source, your creator, whoever you decide that is in your life. But, you know, for some people, it's like, okay, you provided me this resource. My friend provided me a connection. My business associate provided me with a paycheck, or however you want to do it. And that place of gratitude, though, is what perpetuates those blessings, so to speak. You know, if you do something for somebody and they're not grateful for it, then, you know, that's somebody who's like, oh, you believe you deserve this, which, you know, we all deserve good things, you know, but you believe incorrectly that you are owed this. Good point. Which immediately, you know, will turn off a segment of people, because it's like, no, I didn't owe this to you. I'm doing this for you, as, you know, because of who I am, because of whatever, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship. And I think being able to sit in that attitude, that starting from that place of an attitude of gratitude, helps perpetuate like you were saying, the death of the ego, but also just the continued life of that higher self that you're trying to achieve.
Right. Good point.
Right.
So I think the next question is, you know, I want to kind of get to our next question, which kind of goes at the ego, but also kind of is, I'll even call it the underlining or overlaying of the ego, right? Constructive criticism, right? This is something that it's hard, it's tough, right? Constructive criticism can feel as a defense mechanism, can feel as a kind of a shade tactic. You know what I mean? And it's hard to differentiate whether to accept it or disregard it, right? So let's speak on constructive criticism on why it can potentially, well, even I'll even say potentially, maybe not potentially, but why it can bother you. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, why it can bother you?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that I think it's funny that, and not funny in a humorous way, but definitely funny that you mentioned this thing about constructive criticism, because I just made a video about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And the thing is that my perspective about constructive criticism and how it works in people's lives, and whether it's a plus in your life or whether it's a negative in some people's lives, where you find a lot of people in the world today that do not like to hear correction. Not true, not like true, unadulterated type of correction. It kind of wants you to puff it up and highlight all of their pluses, but never speak nothing about the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so my position on that is because the world doesn't promote loving the truth. The system of this world doesn't promote loving the truth. Like
that.
Making the truth like so valuable, so significant that when someone speaks other than the truth, that it is condemned. So the world doesn't promote that. The world promotes basically anything other than that.
Spin.
And because of that, people, the average person has been programmed to dislike it. And they have all these different like responses. They've been given a program of responses to give, to think, then give, to verbalize whenever someone speaks truth. And it don't even have to be constructive criticism. So it can just be truth in a lot of ways. And people tend to, they love it as long as that truth isn't pointed at them. I tell people all the time, you love the way I think. You love my position until the way I think is pointed at you. Ooh. Then there's a problem. Then I don't know what I'm talking about. Ooh. You feel what I'm saying? And so I think, so when it comes to a personal thing and why a person, again, can find it offensive, again, it's like, for me, one of the things that helped me change my response to life is that I wanted to change. I wanted to change. Like, I'm saying so bad to where I wasn't concerned about making parole. I didn't want to make parole because I knew I hadn't changed enough to deal with life any differently than I had been. Okay. You feel what I'm saying? So I don't want to make parole. So this is how much I want to change. So until a person, like every time they say, until a person really want it bad as they want to breathe, like I want to change because my life is dependent on it. My happiness is dependent on it. When people start connecting all that to they need to change, then will constructive criticism, although it may shatter that ego a little bit. Yeah. Although it's gonna, damn, anybody never told me that before. Yeah. Although it may rock you a little bit, you're gonna accept it because you want to be better. You're gonna hear it, you're gonna think about it. You might ask other people, do they see the same thing? But you want to be better. So until an individual reach a point of really truly wanting to be better themselves, the truth in the form of constructive criticism is always going to hurt. It's always going to come out as an attack or a weapon or something of that extent. So I think that is really the ultimate reason why individuals are harmed by constructive criticism. But another one just came across my mind, which I thank the Most High, which is that an individual may have been abused with a certain language as a child, right? The language, it was spoken like it was truth, but it really wasn't truth. But because of the way it felt, whenever a person hear constructive criticism and it feel the same way, they naturally don't want to hear it because it feels just like that abusive language that I heard when I was young.
A trigger.
Yeah, so
A trigger,
anything that make me feel a certain way, I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've learned, I've read, I've heard that there's really no right time to speak the truth. A lot of time, because you know being in a relationship, you try to look for a good time to
yeah
speak that truth, baby. It just don't. It ain't no good time. You know.
Yeah.
It's it might be some better times than others, but for the most part, it's gonna ruffle some things.
So go ahead, Jay.
All right. So it sounds to me, and you can tell me if I'm misconstruing what you're saying, but it sounds to me like what you were saying is we whether because of the communication method or because of just who we are as people, we're not able to recognize constructive criticism as a form of love. Is that what you're saying?
It's partially correct, but not necessarily who we are as people per se. It's how we've been programmed to love lies versus the truth.
I was gonna add to that. Yeah. Go
we've
ahead.
Been programmed to love lies versus the truth, and our mode of dealing with each other hasn't been one. We wasn't cultivated in like in homes and things to just be honest with each other. Like, hey, your breath stink. Hey, your pants unzipped. Yeah. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You got some food in your tooth. We haven't really been brought up to be honest about stuff like that. So we'll see it and won't even say nothing about it sometimes because we don't want to embarrass them. Sometimes people don't speak truth just for the sake of for the friendship, just for the sake of not wanting to start an argument. You know what I'm saying? And so they will allow a person to exist in a certain way.
I think that, constructive criticism, in my opinion, is an opinion, right? Based off of what you view someone else. But I think today, it has stalled communication to where constructive criticism has become combative, right? To a point where it's like you said, if you say like, yo, I don't like what you got on right now, right? It's a defense mechanism. It can potentially be a trigger. Now, we all come across that sometimes the way someone says something to you, what they say to you, yes, can be a trigger. Not saying that it's rude and disrespectful, but if you're, and we'll get on to the relationship and partners in a second, but if you're with a good friend, your partner, person you trust, and you know and you value their constructive criticism, their opinion, there's a positive route to where that's coming from, right? But I think we have been conditioned by social media, the news, the media, people to combat opinions, right? To as a defense mechanism to not understand the truth, as you spoke, right? And I think, am I right there? What you're trying to say, to where I feel like people are trying to fight the truth, and we're going in circles around this truth, right? To the fact that we're telling each other's lies to try to get through not understanding the truth. Is that kind of what you're feeling there?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
So like even like in regards to what you just was speaking about, it's not necessarily that a person that we've been made to just fight it, but we have been cultivated in a system that mainly cultivates an emotional response.
Okay.
It doesn't feed us on a mental, like educational level. The way the system is made, it don't communicate with us like that. It don't communicate with your mind. It communicates with the way you feel. It communicates with what you desire.
Okay.
It communicates with your fears. You feel what I'm saying? It communicates with your anger.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it from that position, and you have a people that has come up in homes where a lot of fathers not there, that mental peace is not there, that mental approach of dealing with problems and things like that is not there. So you have an individual that when under pressure deals with things from emotional position, which I then train you up to deal with things from that same position. So whenever I feel a certain way, it makes me respond a certain way.
Okay.
Versus when I feel something, I check it with my mental and stay on top of my feelings with my mental to a point to where my feelings don't even move me like that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So we have a system where we've been emotionally stimulated, emotionally heightened, to the point to where whenever people say certain things, it make you feel a certain way. So a certain a counter response happen as a means or as a way of causing you to feel the way they feel.
Okay.
So
that's a good point. That's a good point.
I have a follow-up question for you then. Based off of what you were just saying, where the truth sparks a response, what do you have to say then about people or situations where people are using the truth as a weapon? Like where the intention is to spark that negative response, to spark that heightened feeling. Because we watch the news all the time. We hang out with people who like to instigate that type of stuff. So what is your, talk to us a little bit about situations like that.
There was, I used to work at this facility one time where it was with adolescent boys and girls. But actually this place I was at was just adolescent boys at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this place was for drug rehab for adolescent boys. And it was in there, it was a couple of times where they would get upset and they would call me a B-A-N-word.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had never been called that word in my life.
Yeah.
Never had experienced such a blatant level of disrespect. So because I was unfamiliar with how to deal with that, they reached me on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
So even the feeling of disrespect is emotional. Yeah, it might have some integrity and experience, all that, but come from your background, but it's still how you feel. It's personal.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if you feel disrespected, you get a response. Right? Even though if someone logically break that down, well, are you that? Do they know you?
Yeah.
Then why do those words bother you like that? You feel what I'm saying? So when somebody make it logical to you and you answer those questions, you see how foolish it was. But however, they triggered me, right? I fly off the handle. Now it's word for word.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had to step outside of myself and talk to me like I was somebody else. And that's when I realized I had to switch it up. I had to switch my perspective of how I'm receiving it.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I done that, it never happened again. So I say all that to say, when people do that, they definitely have done that a while, and it's kind of like a elementary game, you know, elementary to junior high school game. I know what to say to trigger you, and whatever it is, whatever my motive is, something about this person or that person or y'all have showed me that all I gotta do is say certain things to you, and you're gonna fly off the handle. You're gonna get right where I want you to be. So there's definitely a motive to it. From a position to where you say like there's people that know the truth and they utilize it to cause a reaction. Then them people definitely have a design and a motive to it.
Yeah.
For the people that respond, my thing is that for the people that respond, look, you can't control what nobody say. They can speak how they want to with their mouth.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you can hit them in the mouth you want to. As long as you willing to take everything and go with it. You know, because you don't know how they may respond. They might be tougher than you. You know, they might send you to jail, might, you know, whatever the case may be. But my point is, I think that again, whenever when we talk about the mind, right?
Yeah.
The mind not being the brain, but the mind being connected to your soul, your higher self, you know, your God-like self. When you think about that and your emotions are connected to this physical frame, when you think about these things, it's no way that this physical flesh should be able to control your God-like self, your higher self. You know what I'm saying? So until we reach a point to where we understand that and right, and like it's the valuing of your mental, your like being in control. It's being able to value being in control.
Yeah.
Valuing always saying exactly what you mean. Valuing nobody being able to control you. But whatever you do, you did it because you would have done it 100 different times had that happened. So it had nothing to do with how you felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think when we reach that point for any individual, then it's not going to matter what no one says, whether it be on social media or in your face.
Yeah.
You know, but again, that cultivation starts in the home, and it's a thing that because of all that's out there, it's something that has to be circulated in the home over and over and over, because you got to beat that program that's out there that's trying to get into your subconscious mind, into your kid's subconscious mind. You know, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. So we were gonna that kind of answers the next question. I think we kind of spoke about control and how it affects you, but I kind of want to get into the next question. Right, this is one of my favorite questions of ways to self-check yourself in relationships. The ways to self-check in relationships. I never really thought about that. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it, right? What are your?
That's crazy, boy.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Just
I made that video today.
Oh wow!
Okay. So let's. That's what kind of intrigued me about that, right? Ways to self-check in relationships.
Well, I think, and to keep it simple, I can't remember when I came up with this thought, but I remember it's just in my travels sometime where, you know, growing up young in some environments, we have this school of thought that men can do certain things that women can't. Right?
Okay.
And that's like in regards to like cheating or whatever else, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, as I matured, this thought here came to mind, and is that the best way to govern yourself when we don't know any other kind of way to govern ourselves, right, is to not do anything that you wouldn't accept. A lot of times we have to stand outside of ourselves, because sometimes this is how crafty, I mean, I'm a servant of the Most High too, so I'm gonna talk this God talk and this he talk. So I hope it don't offend nobody.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Do
But
your thing. I feel like this is what needs to be heard as far as our men out there who maybe need to understand what this means, right? I think you hit a certain topic of not accepting something that you wouldn't accept out of your partner. I feel like this is something that needs to be heard. But so go ahead. So
this is how crafty Satan is, the enemy is, right?
Okay.
The only power Satan has is a whisper. This is what I'm taught. Only power Satan has is a whisper. You get these suggestions in your mind to do this, do that.
Yeah.
Well, when Satan also can cause you to rationalize with wrongdoing.
Very true. Very true.
So the Quran says that Satan will make your evil deeds fair seeming to you. And that's what this means, is that he'll cause you to rationalize with your wrongs. So in regards to what we're talking about, it can be a scenario or a situation where you just kind of moving and doing as you always done. So when you're moving like that, sometimes you're moving in an unconscious way.
Yeah.
So you may be communicating with somebody that like you, but you ain't trying to dig with them no kind of way. But that person like you, and you just kind of like kicking and communicating with the person.
Yeah.
But you also know that your woman wouldn't like it if she knew.
Not only that, I guess you can kind of, not to cut you off, but I think you can start from the beginning of like, where did that kind of communication start? Did it start with you? Did it start with her?
But what I'm talking about right here is the fact that you are entertaining it, however it started.
Correct.
You entertaining it, you back and forth with it, you laugh, kiki, kaka, but you wouldn't do it in front of your woman.
But I think the main thing is that the entertainment part had to be initiated by someone.
Right.
Either you or her.
But now that's a piece of it. But the point I want to get to is the fact that this can happen.
Correct.
And until we reach a point to, again, being aware of how we move, what we're doing, why we saying what we, because a lot of times people move through life and don't really be really consciously there. Yeah. They're just moving through life because this is what we've been doing every day and for 20 years or whatever the case may be. And we just kind of going through life and not honestly just really putting no serious thought on the actions or the words, right? And so, some people know that this is wrong. It's to actually maybe give someone your number or to actually try to hook up and go to someone's house. Well, it got some subtle ways that you can start to get outside of yourself, which opens the door for to go into the house, but it happens in a subtle way first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the DM communicating or something and just laughing and kicking caca, but your woman don't know, or she know her man don't know. But the thing is being able to get outside of self and say, you know what? I mean, would I like that if my woman were doing that?
Yeah, it's true.
I wouldn't like that. Would I like that if my man was doing that? Nah, I wouldn't like. So to be able to get outside of oneself and check themselves while in certain acts, or even in a thought to do certain acts, is the way to, again, my perspective is to govern oneself, again, to be, that was the question. We were talking about governing self, right?
The self-checking in relationships. Yep.
Yeah, to be able to get outside of oneself and then be able to say, if she was, I mean, if my woman was doing so, I know I got something to say. I know, if she was texting so-and-so, I know I got something to say. If she was still cool with her ex, because they are good people, and whatever, I'm gonna have something to say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you feel like we as men, and even in women's perspective, you know what I mean? Do you feel like we rely on our partners to tell us what not to do, right? Instead of understanding that self-check-in to say, it's wrong, my partner wouldn't like it, but we're waiting on our partner to tell us, no. Do you feel like that's the issue too?
I never thought about that like that, but it could possibly be. And if I think if a person is consciously doing that, then that's almost like some game.
So
to be consciously doing it.
Well,
yeah, it's kind of like, it's kind of, to me, it made me think about how sometimes the kids don't ask to do certain things because they know you may say no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Go ahead, Jay.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Do you think then infidelity or random outbursts or whatever negative things are coming up, do you think that's a result of people just not living with intention, or too many people not living with intention? Or do you think or do you think it's people are living with intention, but they're still too subject to their ego, like we started talking about?
Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I understood it all the way.
Nah, you're good. You're good. So would you say the fact that all of this, the idea that infidelity happens, the idea that, all of the negative things that people do, whether it's cheating, whether it's fighting, whether it's whatever the case may be, do you think it's more a result of people not living with intention, not doing that self-check-in? Or do you think it's more a result of, people's egos get hurt and they respond that way?
I think it's a little both.
Okay.
I think that a lot of the problems that happen in relationship has a lot to do with the individual not really truly taking that real time, which for myself, I don't believe there's an end time. I think it's something you have to continuously and always do, but it's that thing of being able to check and study self, to really get to understand self, to really question why certain things bother me, why I feel certain ways about certain things, why I react certain ways about certain things. So really try to get to the root of those things. So I definitely believe that's a great percentage of it. And upbringing, like in regards to, I believe that our response sometimes, let's say, like, for example, people who love toxic relationships, they're not happy without the drama, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In my perspective, from my perspective, that's because that has a lot to do with their upbringing and their circle of friends and all of that has said that is cool and that's what's up and that's what's exciting, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's somebody has
that's what a man wants. That's what a woman wants. That's how you control the relationship, or that's how you feel like you can control the relationship, right?
What you mean, like with the toxic stuff?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, some would look at it like that, and when you think about the abusive parts of it, and whether it be verbal or physical, but again, all of that is still coming from what I would call a program. All of it is still coming from some type of program that they've come up with, which I call it programs of unhealthy relationships, unhealthy forms of love, and counterproductive social, ideas that one has embraced.
Yeah.
It's just
what do you say to someone that's doing that and going through that?
Honestly, I wouldn't say anything until they reach a point to being tired. Until, because I believe that again, for me, my desire is honestly, it's just to help people who want it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to reach for people who are happy with the results that they're getting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that you're going to drain more of my honest energy, my genuine energy, trying to do, trying to get you to do something other than what you have a natural desire to want to do. So it's like, I'd rather deal with this group over here that really already want something different than what is going on. Because now I got something to work with. They may still go back to it because of habit, but they want something different. They just haven't figured it out how yet. But as for this person that's loved that life, you gotta let them have that for a while.
So
they're gonna fight you for that. They're gonna fight you for it. They're gonna fight you for that life, man. You trying to
Well, that kind of goes into the next question, you know what I mean? Ways to relieve, stress and frustrations in relationships. I guess that kind of goes.
You mean like between partners or on this like
partners? Yeah,
between partners.
I will say this, right? I know for me, right, and I can just imagine, maybe a lot of men are going through this, right? I feel like no matter how good or perfect, quote unquote, peaches and cream your marriage or relationship is, I feel like as men, especially myself, I do feel stress and frustration outside of, my relationship, right? Whether that may be work, whether that may be finances, whether that may be, anything, right? Because I feel like I take things, every little thing seriously because I feel like I could do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to kind of put that out there to where I feel like sometimes men in relationships that are dealing with stress and frustration in the relationship, they're potentially dealing with it outside of the relationship. And sometimes I feel like the stress and frustration outside of the relationship is weighed heavily more than it is in the relationship, depending on the situation. So I guess honestly, I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
I mean, honestly, I feel like
you mean the stress of single people?
The stress of men in relationships.
No, marriages. I'm saying when you were saying outside the relationship.
Outside of relationship meaning, like I said, finances, work.
Okay.
Trauma. Even maybe some men dealing with, temptations. You know what I mean? Exes. Different things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I do feel like sometimes, it's a double-edged sword sometimes, right? Because it's like that stress and frustration, you know what I mean? It's always on a man's mind, right? And I've heard, throughout, different outlets of people saying that that's one of the toughest things, right? It's not something that just leaves a man very quickly as far as their mindset and their mental. But go ahead.
Which part you were saying? Which part don't leave that quick?
The frustration and
the stress, the frustrations, failures, not feeling good enough, inadequacy.
Okay, I got you.
Feeling like they're not man enough because of the failure that they have dealt with outside of the relationship and also in a relationship.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that we again live in a society that has been designed, and I'm saying not just the American society per se, but we live in a world where specifically the Black male has been for a long time the target of destruction, the target for destruction. So we have a system that doesn't cultivate a value towards the Black male a love towards a black male, but not even just the black male in that sense, but just men in period in regards to value and love per se, you know.
Why is that? Why do you feel it's that way? Well,
Well,
not only why, but I will say why, but what are some things that can be done to change that, in your opinion?
Man, I think for black people, right?
Okay.
I think our reality is more unique than anyone else's. And so I would say that only we really can fix our problem. Mm-hmm. And it's going to just have to start with one, the father and the mother being there in the home.
Especially the father being present. Especially the father being present.
Yeah, being present, but if our relationships can remain together, that's a major plus. But but definitely having the full dynamic of a mother and father in the home.
Okay.
And then the man being able to, one, strive with all he has, all his earnestness, all that he possessed, to be in the position that he desires to be in. You know, I think it's unfortunate that we live in such a materialistic world today. We want 6-bedroom up and down houses. We want 2 foreign cars and a truck and a boat and a motorcycle.
Gratification, right?
Yeah, we want so much to where the stakes are high in regards to earning what a man has to earn to be able to financially cover all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's only when, I ain't gonna say only as to say this is like the only way, but for the most part, it is that what today causes a woman to just be a woman. And from that position, things can start to change, you know, but really mainly just having him and her in the home. Okay. You know, just him and her staying in the home. A lot can change. A lot can change, because you do have a lot of sisters that's not tripping about the financial things, but then you have a lot that are. You know, a man could be making a hell of a nice living, but because he's not making this type of money, then he can't tell her this or that, or, you know. So at the end of the day, there has to be a lot of value for self, a lot of value for the role that I hold and that she holds. Okay. And for her particularly, she has to stop wanting to try to be him too.
The masculinity. The masculinity.
Yeah, too many women are trying to puff their chest out with being able to be him too.
Okay.
And
good point.
But what they're not realizing, at the expense of not being able to raise your children properly.
Yep.
You feel what I'm saying? Yep. Because them kids is a full-time job. Yeah. Somebody has to, really 2 people has to always be on them. Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? So it's a very complex thing in a sense. But it's and just, I guess, the short way I can put it from my own perspective is, again, her loving her role, her loving her femininity, her loving just being a woman, her finding so much power in just being a feminine woman. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. And him loving his masculine role, him loving being able to provide and maintain his family and protect his family, him finding honor in that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And her being able to trust him being able to depend on her. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think all of that, which still goes to self, because an individual can't keep blaming it on him. He can't keep blaming it on her. Look, He ain't the reason why you want the world. He ain't the reason why you want to try to, you want all this status. You know what I'm saying? He ain't the reason. Cause it don't take all of that to raise your kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so these sisters are blaming him for this, that, and other, when it's you can't just blame it on him, because you want way more than you actually need.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem. So when we start talking about and put God in the play, we don't need all this extra stuff that we have. And when you really think about it, for individuals who follow the scriptures and say they followers of the prophets and so on, you got to look at their lifestyle. If you really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people love Jesus because he ain't here on the scene. But if Jesus was on the scene, and he get to spitting this blatant truth, not caring how you feel, it might be a whole nother dynamic going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Hey,
true.
man,
Did you have to add something to that, Jay?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add was there's this because you know me, I approach it from a storytelling perspective, right? And one tool that they always talk about in storytelling is the lie. Like what's the lie that the character believes, right? And usually when they're talking about the lie that their character believes, it's based on two things. It's what the character wants versus what the character needs.
Okay.
So we, and this is part of why I love storytelling, because you can draw direct lines to different things. But it's like you said, it's we convince ourselves that the stuff we want is what we need. We lie to ourselves and say, oh, the thing that I want is actually what I need. Meanwhile, when you, like you said, when you ground it in something, when you ground it internally, when you ground it in God, when you ground it in a source of some kind, you can then realize, like, okay, is what I'm asking for grounded in anything? Is it grounded in religion? Is it grounded in logic? Is it grounded in emotion? Where's the foundation for what I am asking for? And once you ground it, then it becomes easier to see what's true and what's not. Because
Correct.
like you've been saying, truth will tell you what you need. Truth will give you what you need. But too many of us are either afraid of it or don't want to hear it, or whatever the case may be, because that's how we've been programmed.
But I think also you made a good point to where we are not differentiating the wants versus needs, right? To a point where it's like, unfortunately, like you said, women are blaming men for these astronomical needs. The other side of that is there are men giving it to them,
right?
And I think that's the battle, right? You have a side of women that blame men for not giving them what they need on an astronomical level, and in response, they're looking at the women that are getting it from their men, right? And they're saying, why can't the man that I'm with or the man that I'm seeking potentially give me what this woman is getting? Right. And then you have, or even say the middle, the third side, I think I know where you're going with it, Jay, is where you have the men now that saying, I kind of already have it. I'm not letting you in. Right. I kind of have what I need.
Then I'll say there's a fourth side.
Oh yeah. You have men that already have it, and then they're not letting women in for many types of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't know if you have something to say.
Now, the thought I had in my mind, and see if I should grab it. I was trying not to lose it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm trying to see if I saw it. It was God. So I'm trying to remember what God. I was trying to hold it in there when you mentioned something that made me think of it. I'm trying to grab it back.
Just now?
Yeah, you mentioned something while you was talking just now, and it made me
Oh,
think about.
as far as the women are looking at the women that are getting it from men, the fact that
Oh,
men are,
needs.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's what it was. So it was
okay,
needs. Me and a brother was talking the other day on the phone, and this brother, he doing very well, doing very
okay,
well for himself. And I always told him, I say, you're in a very honorable position to be able to provide for such a big family and such that he has in the way that he does it in totality.
okay.
You feel what I'm saying? And I've always told him that, and I say it's inspiring because I think any man would love to be able to give their children and their family just whatever he wants to give them, and then things that you want. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I want to be able to show you how much I value. But on the other side, though, we also mentioned that men are more simple than that. All of the stuff that a man can accumulate has just about everything to do with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that the average male don't require much, and we can be good.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
kosher,
Yeah. Yeah.
with just
That's
some of
true.
the most simplest things in life,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and it's all the extra stuff is because of our desire to please women and sometimes just to keep the woman,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, so in that sense, um, we do have a responsibility because,
And that
I
was
mean,
the fourth side I was talking about. Yeah, you hit it on the head.
yeah, I think that, I honestly believe that, yeah, the scriptures talk about us being productive in the world, but scriptures also talk about us being wasteful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that we spend money on is not nothing of true value.
Correct.
And so therefore we're feeding our ego. You know what I'm saying? We're feeding our desires. And do you know that, with that being said, I took a marketing class one time, and it's three ways they market. I can't remember the other two right now, but one of them was ego.
Mm.
And they say when you selling something, you have to know if you're selling to the ego, and I think it was a need and something else, right? And jewelry, cars, things like that are ego based, which is why they can charge so high. And this was about. It's like they charge you high because the ego wants to possess something that very few people can have.
Hmm.
The ego wants to stand out. The ego wants to be recognized and be separate and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when in essence, the ego is just designed to make us not just settle for anything, to not allow us to settle in the mud. The ego is to make us stand up, look presentable, brush your teeth, comb your hair. That's what the ego is for, just to make you look decent.
Yeah.
Fix your bed, make your house look right. Care about how your kids look.
Yeah.
The ego is that, but the ego is works in a negative when the ego wants to speak louder than everybody.
Yeah.
How everything go its way. Can't really work in a group. It's just something about me over here.
Yeah.
The ego don't even recognize God in some senses.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I think we when we get into this excess, though, man. I believe that is probably could also be you know, maybe even accepted as a punishment. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like from the Most High, is that because of the choices that we're making has a lot to do with why we're suffering and going through what we're going through.
I love that you said that, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. Every time I have these conversations, it just reminds me that, you know, what we're doing is meaningful and is impactful, because I was watching something earlier this week. This is a gentleman called he has a channel called Impact Theory. And he approaches, you know, like self-improvement, personal development, and, you know, being the best version of yourself that you can be. He approaches it from a scientific perspective. And one of the things he was talking about was dopamine, right? And dopamine it's the pleasure hormone, so to speak. You know, it's the thing that our body releases to reward us for doing the thing that we think we're supposed to do. And we can trick ourselves, like we can accidentally, not even accidentally, we can screw up our dopamine system by doing things that reward us, quote unquote, for not really doing anything. You know, so, you know, that's, you know, oh, I want the nice car because, you know, it helps me stand apart. So then you buy the nice car and then your dopamine will flash and it's like, oh yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
So now you're going for more stuff like that. You know, you get that hit of dopamine and it's like a drug, and it's like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
And the conversation that this gentleman was having was like, if you change how you approach dopamine for a second, and instead of doing it as the achievement is the reward, and instead you switch it so the struggle is the reward, the hustle is the reward, the grind is the reward, then you can ground your struggle in the right things, because it's like, okay, the reward doesn't matter, so to speak. The reward is, yeah, it's nice, but that's not the big thing that I'm doing this for. I'm doing this because it has meaning.
Right.
So, you know, like you're working in, you know, like feeding your faith, like going to church, being disciplined, working out, you know, the things that genuinely help you build to a more well-rounded individual. Those are the things that you should be grounding your dopamine or your ego, or however you want to frame it. Those are the things you should be grounding them in, as opposed to, oh, I got a nice check and that's my dopamine hit. It's like, no, I worked hard for something and that's my dopamine hit, or that's what feeds my ego, as opposed to, yeah, I work hard so I can afford the 24-room mansion. It's like, no, I worked hard and that feeds me, but as a side effect of that, I could afford this 24-room mansion if I needed to, but I don't need it. So it's, you know, that's where we should be grounding ourselves. So it, even from a biological level, all of the stuff you're saying is accurate. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Good point. Good point.
I like what you said too, because it's I swear I was telling someone one time about, you know, because this person was like, well, we can't just do all work and no play. You got to be able to go out and have a good time too. You got to be, you know, go out and enjoy life, you know. And I say, but going to the club isn't really the idea that the Most High had for us in regards to enjoying life, right? That's not what the dopamine thing was there for.
No.
I say, if we had a society and a system that cultivated reward for productivity, validation for productivity, then you would see a whole different kind of world. And you wouldn't have to go, like you say, you would something like working out. You got some people that love to work out because they do get that dopamine pleasure out of it, you know, as they're being productive. I even told a person one time, when you feeling down, clean your room and watch how better you feel. Because under most circumstances, whenever you do things that you need to do but haven't done, anytime you feel you complete a task, you get a certain release of dopamine and you feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's really like that simple. And a lot of times, most people run from the discomfort that come with some tasks, not understanding that that's a part of the whole gratification piece. It's your perception of it, though. It's what got it being received as hardship or punishment, or, you know. But if you looked at that like, oh man, you know, I love working, man. I know I'm finna, you know, but not just going like to work per se, but I'm saying grinding on something that you are producing.
Yeah.
That's what a real enjoyment come in at, when you cultivated something, you know.
Yeah. So we're gotta go into our last segment here, to wrap it up series session. You guys know what this is. This is where we give our guests kind of the final floor. Just a few minutes to talk to you guys, give them their gems. Mr. Shift, your perspective, you've got the floor, sir.
All right. Well, again, peace and blessings, and I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I always trust that God is going to give me something to say and answers to the questions, you know. And so I always say, man, for everybody, you know, one of the reasons why I particularly focus on the perspective, because I truly believe and understand that your perspective is your reality. And it's because your perspective is shaped by everything you know, you don't know, you understand, you don't understand, things you've experienced and things you haven't experienced. Your perspective is shaped by all of that. And the way you see something is going to affect the way you feel about it. And the way you feel about it is going to affect the way you then respond to it. And the way you respond to it is going to affect the circumstance that you are presently standing in. It is going to shape it in some form, way, or fashion. And it is that response that shaped that circumstance is what is going to create another circumstance that you then will have to also respond to. And so it's like a series of tests that life is constantly sending us through all throughout the day. And when we wonder why we are constantly dealing with certain realities, certain conditions, it's because it is that individual world that we all create. It is our God-like self constantly creating a world like the Most High created the world. But we're creating our own personal world, and that personal world can make a person love to be alive, or it can make a person want to give it all away and no longer desire to live. All based on that perception. So I strongly encourage everyone to always be mindful of that perspective of everything. Some people say, "Oh, you think too much. Oh, you too serious about this, that, and other." It ain't that serious, but it is that serious. Every terminology you use is serious because when you speak, your ears hear it, your soul receives it, and your mind, your subconscious mind, is constantly re-impacted by everything you say out of your mouth. So it's always more productive to speak intentionally, saying exactly what you mean, for on a personal level first, but then out and abroad on a social level, it enables others to also be able to understand you more correctly and then respond to you more accurately. Again, I can't overemphasize the need to always work on that and always design to truly understand what you read, truly understand what's being said, truly understand what you see, because again, that understanding is what's shaping also that perspective.
Yeah. Wow, man. Really appreciate that message, man. Make sure you guys follow Mr. Shift Your Perspective on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify will definitely be down in the description. Make sure you guys check out all this content. We spoke a little bit off air. Told that the podcast is coming soon. Make sure you guys follow him. Great inspiration, great content. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Also, the Let's Rock podcast. Love to hear your feedback on this. Reach out to us. Let us know what you guys thinking, what you guys got to say. Again, man, Mr. Shift Your Perspective. Really appreciate you taking the time with us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, man. Make sure you guys follow him everywhere. Also follow Let's Rock Podcast on all platforms. Also YouTube, Instagram, and also Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also Google Podcasts. I'm Philasophikal from the Let's Rock Podcast.
I'm Jay Ecko. Take it easy.
We out. Peace, y'all.
Man, appreciate you guys having me. Shout out to y'all, man. And I'm happy to be here, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, man. You guys are doing amazing things.
It's good, man. We doing good. I see you guys looking great.
Well, I appreciate y'all for having me out, taking y'all time, and promoting positive Black image.